Welcome to Morning Coffee, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 27th, the last week of January already. We're gaining 5 minutes a day of daylight at this point. It's awesome. I can really see the difference. The sun is up and it's brighter later every day. We have a great morning coffee planned for everyone today. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to everyone who's joining us on Zoom. And as always, we have an audience on YouTube as well. Welcome to those over watching on the YouTube channel. Glad that you're with us. My name's Adam Mokelke. I am your principal at STrEAM Academy. And with me, as always, is my trusty co-host, sidekick, administrative assistant, and everything else under the sun at STrEAM Academy, Mrs. Sylvia Beyondich. Good morning, Sylvia. How are you?
Good morning, Principal Mokelke. I am doing very well, thank you. I love that we have had students in the building and my soul is being fed.
Awesome. It has been pretty cool to have students in the building again, that's for sure. I've really enjoyed it. Anchored STrEAM Academy empowers students to be involved learners, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens who are inspired by the natural world. That is our mission statement. I'm really excited that our board and interested parents and staff have begun the process of working on a new strategic plan with Dr. STrEAM. Started to work on our strategic plan, which will of course be aligned to our charter, to our mission and vision, but give us some more clear and concrete guideposts on where we want to go and what we want STrEAM to become in the next 5 years. On the agenda today, on this cold, frosty January morning, we'll update you on everything that's going on at STrEAM Academy, talk a little bit about some upcoming morning coffee dates and events and presentations. We have some really exciting things coming up on morning coffee. We have our 6th grade math science cohort team with us today, Ms. Staker and Ms. Drager, and they'll share about what's going on in 6th grade in math and science. And they have a great presentation. I got to look through their slides. Good morning, Ms. Drager. And we're excited about that. We have our weekly check-in about assessment and grading at STrEAM Academy with Ms. Kotelman. She's got some things to share with parents, important tips and things to share this week. And we'll check in about learning labs and what's happening at school. Remember our analogy, we are very carefully wading into the shallow end of the pool with in-person learning. And it's gone very well so far. And so we're just slowly building that up and making sure that we can do it well and safely in a way that works for everybody. Upcoming dates to remember this week, is the first one. We have our cohort presentation today from our 6th grade math science team. I'm pretty sure Ms. Drager will tell you as well about our next balloon launch. That was a really cool event that she held, and I'm excited to hear about that. Next week, we have the other half of 6th grade. We have Ms. Gable and Ms. Kotelman, and they'll be sharing about what's happening in the language arts and social studies side of 6th grade, what those classes are doing. On the 10th, we have the APC meeting the night of the 10th. And so we'll preview the APC meeting. Our first 7th grade team will present, or our second 7th grade team, actually, we heard from Mr. Mosen and Mr. Perkins last week. We have Mr. Holsopple and Mr. Beer presenting 7th grade math and science on the 10th. And also Mr. H has got a lot of knowledge as a scientist and a science teacher, and the spouse of a doctor, working, frontline medical care with COVID. He has a lot of information about the COVID vaccine. And he presented to our staff. Actually, he and his wife, who is a doctor, presented to our staff a couple of weeks ago and just shared a lot of really cool information, really good information about the vaccine, what it is, how it works, the efficacy, the safety. And I think our staff really appreciated that. So I asked him to do a version of that for parents and families. So on the same day he presents with his cohort pair, Mr. Holsopple is going to talk about that vaccine. I would definitely be looking forward to that. So just a weekly chance to touch base with parents. We are back with small group, very focused in-person learning. Most of our staff have chosen to work 1 day a week in their classroom. Some of our staff are supervising small groups of students. I also have a lab that is adjacent to my office, and I'm supervising students who are doing learning labs. So parents are the word's starting to get out about our learning labs, and parents are asking a lot of questions. We have about 40 students scheduled for learning labs right now. And the limiting factor right now actually is internet, is Zoom capacity. Because our teachers are all still teaching virtually, students who come in for a learning lab are still logging onto their Zoom classes. And the internet at our school only has capacity for maybe at the most 14 Zoom sessions going. I think we've pushed it to 14. And the analysis I got from the school district from IT said 11. And they always sort of undershoot that a little bit. So we've had, I think, 14 sessions, and that's about as much as I'm willing to take. So right now, the limiting factor on having students come in for learning labs is actually just internet bandwidth. And we're going to play with, the possibility of consolidating some of those Zooms, students who are in the same classes who are in learning labs the same day, maybe, not having to be on 2 different Zooms. We're going to slowly, like we're doing with everything else, slowly explore that and look for options. So right now we're about full, we're about at capacity. I did send out a survey to parents, allowing all of our parents to request learning labs, and then teachers also were able to make recommendations. And so just so folks know how we prioritize that, I really prioritized who we brought in for learning labs based on our students' needs. And that's tough because all of our students need to be back in school. So the highest need students, the first students we prioritize are students with IEPs, individual learning plans, or 504s who really need that extra support being in the building. They're mostly working with Ms. Crashaw on Fridays. Also, our students who have really struggled academically. We have a small percentage of students who really online learning hasn't worked well and they're not passing classes. And so we prioritize those students to get them in and just help them to stay focused and stay on track. And also students with really, serious social emotional needs, students who may be okay academically, but have really struggled socially and emotionally, and have had a lot of concerns. Miss Bonert's had the leeway to prioritize students she knew really, fit that category and move them up the list. So that's what we're working with right now for learning labs. Going very well. Have about 10 students per day, 4 days a week scheduled. Have them spread out over 3 or 4 different classrooms. Mr. Mosen and I have been taking them on the break after first period and the break after second period. We've taken them and walked the park. Yesterday it was 3 degrees and I didn't think they were going to want to walk. We just went outside to get some fresh air. And Mr. Mosen said, "Who wants to walk the park?" And every single one of the students that was there for learning labs wanted to go. So we went and walked the park, even though it was almost 0 out, because kids wanted to. It's really cool. That's my update on learning labs. A reminder that the lottery's open and we've been steadily receiving lottery applications. Please spread the word. Tell folks STrEAM Academy lottery's open for next year. Word of mouth is the best way that we get new students. Midterm of the quarter is already coming up next week. What's February 2nd next week? Is that Tuesday? It is Tuesday. That would be the midpoint of quarter 3 already. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. And also remember that we are on pace to come back full in-person learning. This is parents, I will have a survey going out soon. I have it built. I will have a survey going out, and what I need to gather, the most important piece of information I need to gather is I need to know every single student that is not planning on returning for in-person learning fourth quarter when we return. Because that will really determine how we adjust staffing and classes, and if we need to provide a teacher for dedicated solely to virtual learning. That'll be determined by numbers, and it'll also really, it'll impact a lot of, how we schedule and how we prepare for in-person learning. So there will be a survey coming out soon. And what I really need to know, even if you don't do the survey, if you email or call us, I need to get a list of the students who won't come in for in-person learning, who will choose to stay virtual, and start to work on that. All right. So those are my updates and the information I wanted to share this morning, and I'm right on track. I wanted to be through that introduction and the beginning of morning coffee by 8:10, and I'm right there. So I am going to turn it over now to Miss Staker and Miss Drager to tell us what's happening in 6th grade math and science. Good morning, Miss Drager.
Good morning. Hello, and Miss Staker's here too.
Good morning, Miss Staker.
Hi. So let's see. Oh, I had a few intro slides, but I'm Mrs. Staker. I teach 6th grade math. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you guys about our percent project that we just did, a little mini project last week during 3rd period. It was great because the kids got to practice. We did our math stuff in math class, but then they kind of brought it into our 3rd period class where we do a lot of math and science stuff together. And then I also have pre-algebra kids that even though they hadn't done the percent unit that Math 6 is doing, they jumped right in. And so it was a good review for them. So it was really awesome. We had a great time. So our objectives were to work with different forms of fractions, decimals, and percents. And then they had 2 components. They had math slides that they submitted via Canvas, and with all of their calculations. And then they also had their little art display project. So I just wanted to take a few to share with you. For example, we started with a really guided first part where they had specific numbers, specific colors kind of thing. But then when they made their quilt, they got to be creative. So that was fun. And they got to work in the breakout rooms to check their answers, since they all had the same answers for that one, same calculation. So they filled in this table, for example. And then I gave them some freedom as well on the second part to use their own colors and use their own numbers. So some of them kind of wanted to make their picture first. And then this one was cool. This student wanted to use just various shades of gray. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And you could tell if you look in detail that some of the squares are shaded one way and some are shaded the other way. And then they had the same part where they had to calculate the math. So of course, this is where they all had different numbers. Some kids added, they wanted to have more colors. So this was an example of that, working with conversions between fractions, decimals, and percents. And then we tried to take a group photo, which was kind of tricky because everyone's moving around a lot, but you can see some kids made multiple. And then let's see, we just had some kids. So there's like a smiley face, and there's like one that looks like a dog or horse. Really cool designs. I showed them a few examples, but really I let them be creative with this. So this was stuff that we prepared for them in a kit. Miss Drager and I kind of organized that, and thank you to Miss Beyondich for helping us get that organized as well. That it worked out. It was really fun. And then here was another example. This student, I thought it was nice because she put everything color coordinated, like the colors that she used. And then in her submission on Canvas, with her calculations, she put her little design, which I thought looks very much like a quilt. So that's kind of what we just wrapped up in math, using 3rd period time to kind of link math and science. And then we're also really excited because one of the next things that we'll be using from our kit is our watercolor set. So the kids got a watercolor set that comes with a paintbrush, and then they also have some watercolor paper. So we'll be practicing on regular paper to start. You know, it's a little tricky because it's not as thick as watercolor paper, but then they'll have a final product where they're using colors and some technique. So that's what's coming up in third period, as well as I'll pass it on to Miss Drager. I did want to let you guys know that there's a really cool, I'm going to, talk about her a little bit here, but there's a really cool slideshow with all these pictures. The ASD came and took pictures and video and stuff. And so it was really cool to see in person. But then if you weren't there, you could always watch it. And then here's the information for tomorrow that she can tell you about.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Miss Drager. I am the 6th grade science teacher. And currently we are working on a project in science, and we're learning about thermal energy and how thermal energy can change the states of matter. So going from a solid, a liquid, and a gas, depending on what temperature is out. So right, ice, water, and then water vapor, just as an example. And so we're learning how when we excite or heat these air molecules that, right, they spread out, they need more space, and that they become lighter because there's less density inside the balloon. And then the outside air is more dense, aka heavier, and they actually push, right, that balloon out of the way because right, the heavier stuff wants to sink to the bottom. And so the kids are really, you know, loving this unit. They finished their balloons yesterday, and so I got to see like all of their smiling faces holding up their balloons. And we are holding a special event tomorrow. So it's a we are inviting our 6th grade science kids to come to a drive-in movie. I mean, no, a drive-in launch. So it does have the kind of background of what a drive-in movie is. You go and you stay in your car, and then it's a parking lot event where we will ask you to watch from the safety of your cars, and students bring their balloon, and when we call their name, they will wear their mask and come up and launch their balloon into the air using, we have a Pittsco propane launcher that we'll use, and that will be in the parking lot. Just so we are all on the same page, the building will be closed to people. So if you need to go to the bathroom or make sure you have water, make sure you do that before you come to the launch event. Yeah, and it's going to be a fun event. Super safe. We're going to stay outside. We're wearing our masks, socially distancing by staying in our cars. It does start tomorrow at 2. And thank goodness a parent reached out and said, oh, my student has skiing at 3 o'clock and but we still want to make the launch. And I said, oh, don't worry. I'll call the ski kids first so that they can launch and get to their ski practice on time. So if you are one of those people, no worries, I'll call them first because I know that that they have a practice kind of far away. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We have other projects on the horizon, but I don't want to overwhelm everyone, but it's very exciting. Lots of hands-on this time. We've done our spool car racers already. We've done just little projects here and there, and our science kits were pretty bulky this quarter, and so it's just been a great quarter. We're having so much fun. So I'm open to answering any questions or whatever else you guys need.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess before we close out, if anyone has questions about the math or science stuff or the balloon launch specifically, you can chat in the box. Any questions for us, but we're here for you. And let's see, that's about it for math and science for now, 6th grade.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It's great. Waiting to see if there happen to be any questions. I'm excited for the balloon launch tomorrow. did we have any questions in the chat or anything else, Miss Bionich?
No, we didn't have any questions that popped up in the chat. Now, so when parents arrive at 2 o'clock, we want them, you're going to present from the corner of the parking lot, right? And so we want them on the side facing, lined up facing away from the Totem Theater Road, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. So there's that little peninsula that kind of comes out at that corner of the building, and that's where we'll put the launcher. So just just put your car where you can kind of see that launch spot. Yeah.
Facing the building. So park facing west, Ms. Staker says.
Yeah. And I'll be out there to direct traffic and try to help people get situated.
So it was such a great event when you did it last quarter, and the communications department at the Anchorage School District main office came out and did a wonderful job photographing, and that video can be seen from the ASD main website and from our website. This is a fabulous project, Ms. Drager and Ms. Staker. You guys did a great job with the kids.
All right, that was awesome. I appreciate the update from you guys. Thank you for coming on and sharing. There's great things happening in those 6th grade classes. I was able to pop in and check out 6th grade science and math this week. It was really fun to see Ms. Staker solving equations with students. It's amazing that to see 6th graders getting into algebraic equations. I love that. Always excites me. And she had a quiz on Google Forms where she finished presenting and demonstrating how to solve equations. And there were like 10 questions. And so because I was in class, she asked me to take it. And I took the quiz. And then after I hit submit on the quiz, she said, "You got one wrong, Mr. McKelkey." And I thought she was joking. I'm like, "Yeah, right." And then I went and looked, and I got one wrong. So I only got 9 out of 10 on the solving equations quiz with Ms. Staker. So I'm gonna have to go back to her math class. And yep, apparently 9 times 7 is 63, and the principal put 64. So show your work. Every step of that equation matters. And then I was able to check out Miss Drager has the directions for the balloon launch, or the balloon building, I'm sorry, on her YouTube channel. And so it's all laid out. She walks through taking the paper, doing the measurements, how to use the ruler, where to make the cuts. All of the directions are recorded on our YouTube channel. So you can actually watch that on YouTube and walk through that. And if you're not in 6th grade science, or you just feel like your kid did that at some point in the year and you want to do it again, you can get the materials and walk through it and do your own balloon launch. It's pretty cool that those are on YouTube for all of Prosperity. Both of these teachers have YouTube channels that they set up to meet the demands of teaching online and virtually, starting last March. And so like Ms. Staker's got math lessons, it's like Khan Academy, but better, really. And Ms. Drager's got some pretty cool hands-on science stuff. You have your bridge building stuff on YouTube too, right, Drager?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so check out their YouTube channels. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat that they provide those resources. All right, once again, big thanks to our 6th grade math and science cohort team doing awesome stuff. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you. And I don't see any questions, so that's good. We're gonna hop right on back on.
It looks like Mr. Mosen might have a question.
Oh, Mr. Mosen has a question. Mr. Mosen, do you have a question for
Mr. Comment about the balloon launch? Those 6th graders that, excuse me, that might have skiing, I don't want any stress. Like, they should stay and launch balloons. Go to Russian Jack with their parents if they want to meet up, and all they have to do is stay with their parents until they see a coach. And there's one group at least that stays around there. So if they get there a little late, I don't want them to stress out. I'm glad they're with their friends outside, and I don't want them to rush on the balloon launch. So just tell them they can miss it, or they could just go to Russian Jack Chalet and stay with their parents until they hand off the child to a coach. Okay. Make sense?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mosen. I appreciate that. Let's see. I do have a spot on the agenda, Mr. Mosen, for you in a little bit to talk more about skiing. Just give us an update on skiing if you want. That's coming right up. So are you seeing my slides now? Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Staker and Ms. Drager. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you, and your students appreciate you, and parents appreciate you. Quick reminder, we still have a lot of coats, and it's really cold out right now, and we want to get these coats out of our school and into the hands of children, even if they're not STrEAM students at this point, because we've really pushed and advertised and made sure all of our students know they can get a coat. If you have siblings that need a coat, or if you know a family that or your family, you know, for some reason you're not at STrEAM and you need a winter coat, just call Mrs. Beyondich and she'll arrange for you to pick one up. We're not gonna be picky about who we give them out to. Any kid that needs a warm coat and asks us, we'll get a warm coat. So we'd really like to get these coats in the hands of kids. This is from a grant called Operation Warm. They provided these coats to us. Do you want to say anything else about that, Ms. Beyondich, or does that cover it?
No, that covers it. I mean, we're super thankful for the grant from Operation Warm and their partner here in Alaska, Money Mart, for supplying coats to our school. Now we just need to get these coats on student bodies. And then anytime, if your student has a coat and you're outside and you're willing to share a picture, Operation Warm would love us to have pictures that we can send to them so that we can thank Money Mart appropriately. So send us your pictures of your kids in your coat, in their new coat.
Email Mrs. Beyondich a picture of your child in their Operation Warm coat. How many coats do you think we've given away?
Close to 95.
Ooh, we've given out 95 winter coats to students who need winter coats this year. That's awesome. That makes me happy. Really cool. Thank you, Mrs. Beyondich. All right. Next, we have our weekly check-in. Ms. Kotelman is scheduled to do a weekly topic on anything and everything regarding mastery assessment and grading at STrEAM Academy, and just continue to educate our parents on that topic. Ms. Kotelman, I'll stop sharing my screen in case you need to share something. What do you have for us today? Tell us about grading.
Hi. So today is about late work and redos. Since our midterm is coming up, this felt like a pertinent discussion. And there's been a lot of questions from parents about, do you guys have deadlines? And so I wanted to sort of clear the air and talk a little bit about late work and redos. And as per usual, I am gaining inspiration from a very important text in our grading policy. Fair isn't always equal, that I've abbreviated to FIEE because, you know, millennial. Anyway, so on page 148, he says, very few students learn from experiences in which there is no hope for positive academic recognition for mastery obtained. So I'm sure many of us have had experiences in school where we forgot to submit something, or we were submitted something late and then suddenly it's a 0. And it's really disheartening I remember experiencing that in college as an adult. And then imagine how it feels as a 12-year-old kid. Very challenging. So what's important here is an accurate rendering of mastery. So if we just take off student points or reduce their overall grade or their letter grade because they submitted something late, then it's not necessarily an accurate rendering of mastery. This isn't to say that there aren't consequences for submitting things late. It's just, we don't want those consequences to obscure what the grade is supposed to represent. So here are some late penalties I've experienced that I feel obscure renderings of mastery. So every day the assignment is late, take 10% off, again, typo, off the earned grade. That's a big one. That one I've seen a lot. This one is okay, I guess, for practice assessments and things like that. And I understand the perspective of teachers and instructors and professors who use things like this. The intention is to deliver consequences to people who submit things late, to communicate that timely work completion is a skill. And these are not, just because teachers use these doesn't mean they're evil and don't care about student work. But what we've noticed is that it communicates the wrong message in terms of mastery learning. If you miss a deadline, you cannot submit and earn a 0. That one is the harshest one I've experienced. Mistyping a professor's email and then sending it late, still earning a 0. That was a bad day. 1 letter grade off for each day it is late. Also kind of iffy. It doesn't really, because then we don't really know, well, did the student actually earn a B? Or did they earn an A and they just submitted it a day late? A B is supposed to represent what they know how to do. So again, it starts to conflate. So STrEAM proposes something different. This isn't to say that we do nothing. It's not nothing. we do have late policies and ideas for how to help students when they're late, and it's not complete it when you want it. Okay, our work does have deadlines. They do need to submit on time. When it is due, that's when it's due. So to say that students can submit work late, then that's not saying that they can complete it whenever they want it. Unfortunately, some students do see that connection, and staff at our school are working consistently to try to make that connection not a thing that's happening, because it's a dangerous one. If you complete it when you want it at 11 years old, you may not have the capacity to really hold on to those deadlines for yourself. And then also it can get extremely overwhelming if work just continues to pile on. So we do have deadlines and we do have late penalties. It's just they're not those 10% off arbitrary kind of rules. We like to look at our late penalties with nuance and understanding. So when somebody submits something late, we have to ask ourselves some questions. Is it an occasional late submission? If it is an occasional late submission, the answer is pretty easy. If it's an occasional issue, be merciful. Let them submit it late for full credit. It's an easy solution. If it's an occasional late submission, we can be merciful and let them submit it for full credit. Because if a student has been consistently turning in work on time, they deserve our goodwill and grace in this situation. And I think it helps strengthen that relationship between the student and the teacher if we are able to have a conversation about it. And a lot of people say, well, you can't submit late work in real life. You know, you can't do that. There are deadlines in real life. And to that I say, absolutely not. Flights are delayed, appointments rescheduled, tax deadlines extended. Sure, there are consequences for these, and it's not always the easiest for people around you. However, it is a fact of life. And learning how to request a late submission with grace and to receive that kind of grace, I think is a more valuable lesson to an occasional late submission than nope, no matter what, 0. So it's a little different for the chronic late submission. Okay, for the chronic late submission, again, interventions beyond penalties are needed. We can't just like slap an F on that kid's work and move on. Anytime a student has chronic late submissions, that is call for an investigation to figure out why they're submitting late and what can be done to best support this kid in submitting stuff on time. Because that's what's going to help them learn the best. And that's ultimately the goal. In our charter, we have a very strong, heavy lifting phrase at teacher discretion. This phrase does a lot for us. What it does is it allows staff to use their discretion and use their nuance and understanding to set late penalties and late sort of practices to help students get their work done on time and to help them learn to honor deadlines without just slapping a 0 in the grade book, okay, at the first sign of something is being late. A lot of our teachers are very, very accepting and understanding. And I think all of us are very understanding of late work and the desire and the need to see that people learn at different paces, and some might need more time. So that at teacher discretion allows us to do that while also holding kids accountable. And there are a bunch of different ways that teachers are doing this. So for me, some of my mastery assessments have super deadlines. For instance, like if the mastery is due on this date, you have up until 2 weeks to submit it before I don't accept it. And I will continue to check in with that kid until they do it. My partner, Miss Gable, and I, we are instituting a super deadline on February 5th, the midterm, to not accept any pause due before that date. I know the 8th grades group is doing that too. We're communicating with us with kids. We're letting them know, here are the assignments that you have to get done by the 5th or you can't get credit for them. And so there are lots of opportunities for them. And I think that's the most important part, is opportunity to still engage in the learning process and get that academic recognition for engaging in the learning process. So here's the takeaways for parents. Late work should not replace current work. This is something that I see often, where kids are behind, so they're not doing the current work, they're doing the past work in order to get caught up to the current work, which I understand the drive to do that, especially in our project-based world where things sometimes do need to be done in order. So if a student is behind and things don't need to be done in order, then stay up to date on the current work and make extra time for the late work. Don't let this pile build while you take care of this pile. And then also, it really helps us, and it brings me so much joy when parents have conversations with their kids every day about, like, show me what work you finished today. And if they're like, well, I didn't finish anything, then opening that conversation up and having that extra accountability at home goes a long way. And it really helps limit students' stress and overwhelm. And that's the goal. It's not to just like poke fingers and say, like, are you doing what you're supposed to do? It's a grace. It's a kindness. So we just request that you work with your kids and email us and just let us know if there are any questions about getting work done on time, so we can help kids focus on the learning process rather than just work completion and feeling stressed about having a pile of things to do. Because if they're stressed about a pile of things to do, they're going to rush through it and they're not going to get the learning. So as always, our goal is learning, and grades and late work and all that stuff should serve that goal. So hopefully that helps clear some things up. STrEAM Academy has deadlines.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Kotelman. I think that is very helpful. And just having you coming on and talking about how grading and assessment works at STrEAM, sharing, the philosophies and what's in the charter and the work, Rick Wormelli's work, the things we follow, really helps just kind of that ongoing education for all of us. Were there questions? Any questions for Ms. Kotelman? So the flexibility and the allowance of makeups and redos and retakes is not open-ended. It's not all encompassing. It has limits. It has teacher discretion. Practice assessments are, Ms. Kotelman's talked about how we have two types of grades. We simplify it at STrEAM: practice assessments and mastery assessments, PAS and MAS. It makes sense to limit how long you'll allow students to redo and make up or make up missing practice assessments. So practice assessments are all building towards masteries. And once you've completed and passed that mastery, it's not a whole lot of purpose of going back and doing a random practice assessment if you've done the mastery. And the weight and the meat of the grade is really on mastery assessment. So that's where we put a lot more focus on flexibility and allowance for time.
And it also allows teachers to focus on the current content and what's going on. I can't tell you how many times before I started doing these sort of super deadlines and cutoff dates, how many times I've graded an assignment from January, just a simple PA from January in late March. It's very, it's tedium, and not only do I want to save myself from that tedium, I want to save students from it too. The goal is to help them learn more. And if they feel like they're doing tedious stuff, we need to listen to those feelings and make sure we're setting up structures that avoid those.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kotelman. Ms. Kotelman's scheduled every week on Morning Coffee to talk a little bit about mastery and assessment and grading at STrEAM. If you have questions or specific, thoughts on topics within that topic that you'd like to hear about or ask about, let us know. Let us know, because it's open-ended under the the broad heading of mastery assessment at STrEAM.
And your questions help guide our reflections as staff too. So the more you guys ask us about how our grading system works and how we do things here, the more clear we can be within ourselves too. So if there's any confusion, for instance, our mastery scale used to be a little bit confusing, and then we worked as a staff, we held a meeting and worked to make our mastery scale more universal and more understandable. So please, if there are any sticky points, this is something I say with kids, if there are any sticky points, please let us know.
Awesome, thank you. All right, the next thing we have this morning is just our quick weekly check-in with our counselor. And Ms. Bonertz, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you. I'm almost done with my coffee, so that's my
perfect.
barometer of being good.
I think I'm on my third cup or so.
Oh, if I had, that's too much for me.
I'm a Java junkie.
Yeah, so this week, parents, if you haven't gotten an email already, be on the lookout this week. Teachers will be sending out iReady results to you this week. So that should be coming to you no later than Friday. And we do have a very small handful of students that did not finish. If teachers let you know that they did not finish, they can still finish. They can still get in there. The reading and the math diagnostics are a really good way for us to see how much they've progressed since the beginning of the year, number one, and number two, it will help them for their placement for next year, especially our 8th graders. So if you get an email that says that your student did not finish, please encourage them to finish those. Again, with a small number of kids, but be on the lookout for iReady. 8th grade, we've been having a lot of really good conversations about high school. I've had a couple of students chime in and set up individual sessions with me to talk about high school. A lot of kids are nervous, and I think they're more nervous than they have been in the past because of the nature of the year that we've had. And so they're basically feeling like they're going straight to online, or straight from online to a giant high school. So I'm doing my best to try to ease some of those anxieties. And we later on at the end of February, we'll have a couple of representatives from East, hopefully a representative from Bartlett, maybe a representative from Stellar. But we'll keep your 8th grade students up to date on things to be checking out. 8th grade parents, now is a really good time to start shopping for your high school. So Highland has an open house, I believe, next week. Bartlett and East, I think theirs is at the end of February. So high schools are starting their recruitment process, and they're starting to get information out for your 8th graders. So start shopping. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Ms. Bonertz. Tell us, what days of the week are you at school in the building now?
Yeah, I'm at school on Mondays and Thursdays. So that's a really good day for me to be able to check in on students there and be able to, I'm not at my office desk. That's nice for students or parents to be able to call me directly there. And so those days are really good days if you have questions, or you have your 8th graders there and say, hey, Ms. Bonertz is there. If you have questions, go and talk to her. So those are really good days for students to come and see me.
Awesome. Perfect. We also have the School Climate and Connectedness Survey coming up every year across the state of Alaska. We conduct the School Climate Connectedness Survey. It's one of my favorite things that we do, because the data reflects how our school is doing in ways other than academics. Academics, of course, what we're all about. It's important. The underneath that, is the culture of a school. And that data for me is so important to collect that data from students and teachers and families to say, how are we doing? What's our school climate like? How safe do people feel? How supported and valued and empowered do people feel? What's the level at our school right now with bullying and harassment versus the level of kindness and empathy and support? And you know, we every year, and I share this often, every year we take that data and I share that data with the APC and set goals for myself and for the school for the coming school year. And then I share that data at the beginning of every year with our staff, and really lead them in a process where they dig into the data and you know, pick out things that stand out to them, both positives and opportunities for improvement, and share in goal setting with our staff. Our school climate is really that's everything. Like everything, you can't have a successful school and successful academics and all these other programs without a strong school climate. It doesn't work. School climate comes first. Your school culture is the heart and soul of everything that you do at a school. So we'll have some information. Ms. Bonertz and I will be sharing information soon. You'll get a newsletter about the School Climate Connectedness Survey. And we're really looking forward to see. It'll be unique. It'll be different, a different data set than we've ever seen, because we haven't been in school face to face for almost a year. But I'm excited to see the feedback that we get and the information that comes from that. That's coming too.
A few questions in the chat that we need to have Ms. Bonertz address.
Sure.
One of our parents is asked, just wondering, are teachers talking to their students about fall versus winter iReady scores in terms of goal setting, et cetera? Or is that something that we could do at home? That's the first question, Ms. Bonertz.
Yeah, so that one is actually really hard, Katie, unfortunately, because our teachers, our math teachers, if they have their student in math, I know that they're working with the math students, but it could possibly be that they don't have math this quarter. So it's really hard for teachers to consistently work with their students with math the entire year when they only see them different chunks. Same with reading. But teachers are keeping up with students in terms of how much time they're putting in an iReady. So that data, Katie, can be used for you and families to figure out how can we get our student to improve specifically in this area, maybe comprehension or fluency or something like that. So that data is a good tool for parents to use at home to get their kids to improve their skills. Yes. Then we did, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just wondering, is there a place on your website that we've posted high school open house and tour information, or should we do that on the main website for our entire school, Ms. Bonertz? How can we put that out for parents?
I feel like both. I can put it both on my website as well as and I can put that together, Ms. Beyondich, and we can put that on the website. I am also sharing this stuff directly with the 8th grade students as well. But that's a great idea. Let's get some of that information, that high school stuff on there. I did have a question about getting like a West representative. We probably will just stick with the East Side schools. So very few of our 8th graders do head to the West Side or the South Side. So if you are considering going to one of those other schools, I highly recommend calling their counseling staff and finding out some of their information to get you started.
Traditionally, February is Schools Month. And so I think all of the schools are navigating a way to virtually prepare a tour for prospective parents. I know that Anchorage STREAM Academy is doing that, and we're having a video produced right now that we can present during our virtual open house, which is scheduled at the end of February. And more information will come out about that soon. One of our parents has asked, how do you determine what school a child will go to? And is there a good link? So what the way that the Anchorage School District decides about where a school is going to go is based on their geographical location. So a student will be their natural progression when they leave the charter school or the neighborhood school that they're in and they go on to the next level is based on your physical location. So if you live in the East Zone, you'll be tracked to go to East. If you live in the Bartlett Zone, you'll be tracked to go to Bartlett. If you choose to participate in another program, like you're very interested, you live in the Bartlett zone and you want to go to East High School to participate in SWS or one of their specialty programs, then you have to apply in the lottery. And that needs to happen now.
I'm just curious.
Go ahead, Katie.
Like where, I mean, I assume between, like, I'm just curious so far in cohorts of East graduate or STrEAM graduates, where, if there's some rough guesstimates of where kids end up going. Is there like half end up going to, or is Bartlett kind of the majority? I mean, I guess it depends year to year in terms of, but I'm just curious.
So far, I'd say anecdotally.
Heavy Bartlett.
Yeah, Bartlett and East.
Yeah.
Probably the most Bartlett, and then East, and also Highland. We send a lot of kids to Highland. We've built a strong relationship with them. They're also located in East Anchorage. They're also a small charter school, and they run through high school, and we communicate really closely with them. And we've got quite a few former STrEAM students who are at Highland, and I keep good tabs on them. They're doing really well over there. So I don't have data to this, Katie, but anecdotally watching this play out for 5 years, or the last 4 years, I would say Bartlett, East, and Highland would be our top three right now. Sylvia, Amy, what do you think?
I agree. Those are the three highest of interest.
It's flashing back to like preschool days when they had like the big easel outside the classroom doors where it was like, where's your child going to preschool? And they'd have little things and you could put, and it was actually a really like helpful way for parents, to kind of think like, oh, if I have questions about so-and-so, I'm like, could we do a STrEAM version of that? Like a Google Doc where voluntarily, of course, but like families could put of 8th graders and say, hey, this is where we think we're headed. And I don't know. Anyway, that's just my own sort of, reminiscence. But I was like, why wouldn't, schools do that? I'm thinking about the same thing for our, younger kids. So anyway.
That's an excellent idea, Katie. And maybe we can make that happen. There are so many wonderful high school programs.
It might trigger some people's ideas of being like, hey, I've never heard about that. Maybe I'll connect with this parent and ask them what they like about it, or, or what's drawn them to it, or what they've heard, or because it was just a funny flashback to me, but maybe that would be a fun optional project for parents who wanted to participate.
You don't have to worry about where your younger children are going to go though, Katie.
Exactly. I know.
We know where they're going.
Right, just you wait.
That's a good idea. I like that. It reminds me a little bit of when we're back face to face, the information sharing we do, sort of middleman we play for carpooling, where anyone who's interested, we share your information with each other so that's, hey, you live in the same neighborhood area, side of town. I'd say in addition to the Bartlett, East, Highland, like I feel like we have kids in every high school in the district. We really do have kids who come from all over Anchorage School District and they go to school all over Anchorage School District. We've had kids at West and at Diamond, South, and we've got kids, we've got a pretty strong contingent of Eagle River families that love STrEAM Academy and drive into Anchorage for work anyway. They always end up meeting each other and combining and carpooling, which is really cool. Because they're coming in and back and forth from Eagle River. And so then, we've got kids at Eagle River High School right now. I'm not 100% sure if we have anyone at Chugach. We probably do. I know we have some families that actually worked at Eagle River High School and their kids came to us. And so they've got their kids with them there now. So it's pretty cool to see our kids kind of go all over the district and have success. It's pretty
cool.
Pretty
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Katie. Let's see. Do we have any other questions we want to get to? Good questions. I love it when parents like this really makes morning coffee for us. We love to present and share all this info, but the most valuable thing I think for us in a lot of ways is when you folks come on and ask us questions and want to talk about things. It's really good. I'm just food for thought. Shoot me ideas if you have them, folks. Email me or call me or whatever. I really see so much value in doing morning coffee, and I'm a little stressed and sad about when we come back face to face. I don't think I can do it this way in this format, because at 8 o'clock in the morning at STrEAM with all of our teachers and students in the building, I will be very busy. But I really want to try to figure out how to continue to do morning coffee for parents when we do return face to face. I'm looking for ideas and suggestions. And in a perfect world, we could do this face to face. We could do it after school starts in the lobby and actually have coffee and just visit once a week for parents that could come in. I don't know that that's practical, when we come back this year, while we're still hoping to get vaccines out there and, worrying about mitigating safety and, but maybe, afternoon tea, lunch event, those are good ideas. So
Principal McKelkey, when we come back March 15th, we will still be coming back for quarter 4 days a week. So we can continue.
That's true.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Through this academic year, but
True.
It would be very nice for this level of communication is so important that I agree with Jeff and Laura Ashley Kodelman about maybe we could have an afternoon tea or a lunch event next academic school year, just so that we can keep in touch with our parents virtually.
Yeah, you're right. I misspoke. Our board, our APC did vote to keep Wednesday as a virtual asynchronous day through the end of the year, because it's really a good reset and work time for us and for kids. So when we are back face to face, it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the plan right now, and that was approved by our board. So yeah, I could continue to do this.
Yeah, and the Anchorage School District adopted our plan as well, and they're also doing that in secondary.
They did adopt our plan, and it's okay for us to say it was our idea first. All right, we're coming up to close to the end of morning coffee. I do want to share what we're reading. This is something a little different, well, especially for me. Usually what I'm reading has to do with education and leadership and school. And we are reading currently young adult fiction called The Truth Project. And we're highlighting this because not only is it a really cool book and it's appropriate for middle school, definitely 8th grade students. And we've provided some copies for our teachers, but Dante Medema is a local author. She's an Anchorage resident, and so that's really cool to have a local author, member of the community, have a published young adult fiction out there. I lifted this directly from the internet. It's a heart-wrenching quest for identity every young adult reader will relate to, and a deep dive into the meaning of family. It's the debut author Dante Medema explores emotional fallout after a teenage girl discovers she's a product of an affair, told through a series of poems and texts and emails. So Mrs. Bionich has read it. I'm reading it. Miss Kodelman and Mrs. Smith have a copy. Mrs. Yip, our board member, APC member, just raised her hand. She read it. Sylvia, what do you think of this book?
This is a beautifully written book. It's a book that features a student who uses project-based learning in her capstone project in her high school, actually. But it is so beautifully written that it lifts you up as you read it. The voice of the main character is identifiable, and it brought me great joy to read this book, not because I recognized that how beautifully written it was, but also because Dante Medema did a lot of her writing and editing at a local bookstore here in Anchorage, the Writer's Block. Yes. And I love that bookstore, and support local, you guys. This is a beautiful book, and I would encourage everyone to read it. It's perfect for 7th and 8th graders. It might be a little bit above the 6th grade reading level, but it is perfect for 7th and 8th graders. And I hope everyone reads this book. It doesn't take long to read. I read it in an afternoon, and I am while I am a voracious reader, I'm not a very fast reader. I really absorb words as I read them, and for me to be able to read this in one afternoon says a lot about how well written this book is.
Awesome, thank you, and I'm looking forward to doing that as well. I know Miss Kotelman's got it on her reading list. We're also plugging it a little bit because we've reached out to Dante Medema about joining us on Morning Coffee. I want to introduce the book and give folks who want to read it some time. We do have some, I think I have a couple more copies in my office. And so if anyone wants to borrow a copy from the STrEAM library, you can check that out from us, and we'd be glad to lend you a copy. Support local, support a local author, and look for an announcement that hopefully in the coming weeks that we have Dante Medema on to talk about her book. And also I follow her on Twitter, good Twitter follow, and she's recently started plugging a little bit on Twitter that she is working on a new book. She has a new project in the works. And so maybe when she comes on, we'll get a little sneak peek into what her next book will be also. So look for that information. All right, we are coming up really close to the end. We're actually over time today, which is okay. Mr. Mosen, elevator speech. You just got in an elevator, you're going up one floor. What do you want to tell a parent about ski team before the door opens?
Going really well. Keep it up.
All right. If you need more information about ski club, ski team, reach out to Mr. Mosen or myself or Miss Beyondage, but Mr. Mosen's the point man. And
so we failed to update that slide. There is no mandatory Zoom meeting today at 3. Sorry about that. That's my mistake. I failed.
Sorry. Yeah, no meeting. That was last week. But what days are we doing skiing, Mr. Mosen?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 to 4:15.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 to 4:15.
Every single student showed up yesterday.
Awesome.
I wouldn't have guessed that, and it was very great.
Dance is today at 11. So we want to make sure for students.
Dance at 11. Get on the Zoom and jam with Miss Kotelman. Dance. It's awesome. Encourage students to do it. Parents, hop on with them. Miss Yip, you can come dance with us.
You're muted, but I could hear that.
YouTube audience, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And we're going to say goodbye. That's it for Morning Coffee. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. A great morning with you all. See you all next week.